Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Jessica Clemons, and this is a breakdown of Season 4's 3-episode premiere of The Boys. Yes, we're breaking down episode 1, 2, and 3. It's gonna be a very long video. So let's stop wasting time and let me break down this episode and reveal all those fun missed details and Easter eggs you might have missed. Gear up for the biggest movie of the summer, and I'm talking about Deadpool and Wolverine, or show your love for the Force and some Star Wars inspired merch. Grabbing some merch from nerdride.shop is the best way to support the channel and all the work we do breaking down all these properties for you each and every week. Here I am wearing this shirt. I love this shirt. I'm never gonna take off this shirt. Stank shirt. Let's get into it. The first episode is titled Department of Dirty Tricks. This refers to the Real World Office of Strategic Services, or OSS, during World War II. They had a division known as the Dirty Tricks Department that would devise unique and inventive ways for American spies to conceal weapons to complete their missions, like baseball grenades and umbrella guns. It could also be a nod to Richard Nixon and the book covering his '68 presidential election titled Dirty Tricks, which covers how news outlets and key figures in the Republican Party secured him a seat at the White House, like we're doing right now with Victoria Newman and Homelander. We open with a thorough recap of what has happened in the last 3 seasons, reminding us of last season's revelation that Homelander is Soldier Boy's son, Ryan's looking for a new father figure, and Starlight can fly, and Victoria Newman is still on top. We open to the tunes of God Save the Queen by the Sex Pistols, originally released in 1977. The song came out during a time of great turmoil in the UK due to recessions and high inflation and unemployment and continuing labor union strikes. In the year 2000, though, the lead singer Johnny Rotten said, "You don't write God Save the Queen because you hate the English race, you write a song like that because you love them and you're fed up with them being mistreated." And those feelings are echoed here in The Boys America as we kick off season 4. Tensions are at an all-time high with Victoria Newman as a secret suit poised to enter the White House as the song starts with the lyrics, "God save the Queen, the fascist regime." As we'll see in the first 3 episodes of the season, the Supes are planning a government takeover, setting up their own form of fascism. Currently, in America, we're going through our own little 2024 presidential campaign and elections. I sometimes forget that folks are watching us from like all over the world, so you just might not know our current situation, which is usually, always, more often than not, a dumpster fire. Though the boys are known to take satirical approaches to America's values and scheming, it's no surprise this mimics our current political affairs. They even have a campaign website for Newman and Singer with a countdown to the premiere and links to register and check your real voter registration status. So it's election night, the first Tuesday in November. This is fairly close to Gen V. Ashley mentions the debacle at Georden, so the 2 shows overlap in time. The Singer and Newman poster, usually where the E's are in both Singer and Newman, have the US flag. It's only in Singer's name now. This is more reassurance that Newman isn't really here for America, but for her own agenda. Colorado and Nevada just went to Robert Singer, and we don't really know whom they're running against yet. In season 3, Lamar Bishop was trying to be the VP running mate for Bob Singer before Victoria Newman. And most of the news outlets then only covered DeSantis being weird or Ted Cruz being a freak. Later in episode 3, they show the state representatives, but it's for the House and Senate. It never really mentioned other political figures up against Singer and or Newman. There's a ton of people on camera like filming Victoria Newman's speech, when in reality, it's a video with a filter that makes you look like an object, like the lemon from TikTok. I just think the scene's really funny that I caught that. We see our first glimpse at Kimiko this season. She's undercover as a server, and she walks past these Homelander posters that say Save America. We've seen these posters lining the walls for a while now throughout the show. They're performing their ocean-styled scheme within a Mr. Marathon catering truck. Mr. Marathon was the original speedster on the 7 that A-Train replaced after he retired. Though we never see him on the show, he's mentioned every season. He's on the Dawn of the 7 even movie poster. Mother's Milk has now started rocking this mustache that has thrown me off continuously. It is, I'm always jarred when I see it. He also continues his tradition of wearing hip-hop shirts. This one's for Gangstar. Kimiko brings him catering food and says he's been working too much and he needs to eat more. She offers him these Gruyere puffs. Funny enough, the same snack stand Edgar asked Mario, the chef at Vought, to make when Butcher arrived in season 2.
Would you ask Mario if he could whip up some of those Gruyere puffs? Would you like an order? They're worth a cheat day.
I just think this is interesting to capture because if they have Vought or Mario's Gruyere puffs being served at Newman's election night party, this could imply it's her favorite food. By proxy, her dad, Stan Edgar, it's his favorite snack, and she's still missing her dad, which Homelander alludes to later like an ass. I just like that she kinda still remembers him. His qualities are still there with her. We see Frenchie in this very comic accurate depiction with his goggles. Butcher is puking his guts out to remind us he's sick and talking to a hallucination that will later be revealed to be Becca. Just so you know, Temp V has numerous side effects, including, but not limited to, migraines, muscle spasms, nausea, and projectile vomiting, as you can see here. Further testing of the drug has also recently revealed the adverse effect of causing brain lesions. Organic brain lesions can also lead to depression, anxiety, and schizophrenic-like psychosis, and that's just temporary V. Permanent compound V should be more concentrated and aggressive. So the results for that should have a much worse side effects that we've seen in Homelander the past 2 seasons. I'm not saying that all Supes are affected like Homelander will be, because genetically frankly, we're all different, so this may just affect him and may not affect others. Kimiko and Frenchie stop Butcher from entering the elevator, and when the elevator is finally about to close, it says, "Please remove obstruction from door." And as we know, Butcher will be the biggest obstruction in the next 3 episodes to the boys, to Keesler, to Homelander, to everybody. I love how in this scene, it's staged to look like Homelander is just outside being heroic underneath the sun, but he's actually just taking a piss like a normal person, and he's like lit by the bathroom lights. He's also aging, as evidenced by the white pube, and he is a mess. Look at that mini breakdown he has before he leaves the bathroom. Ryan is older. He's like a teenager now. This is, of course, in the actor aging, but also a reminder he's absolutely in his developing years now and easily influenced. So his constant flip-flopping between wanting to be with Homelander and turning away is understandable. We then get this scene.
Would you be scared of a bunch of cockroaches? Huh?
Yeah.
And Homelander has no idea how to deal with kids. He has never even socialized with Ryan. We're introduced formally to Zoe post Compound V given to her by her mother in season 3 to protect her. Reminder that Homelander helped Victoria get Compound V so she could give it to her daughter, and it was their little deal in secret. Homelander is currently on trial for killing the protester in the finale of season 3, something that still seemed up in the air during Gen V, though some children wanted to see him still being held accountable. Butcher offers to take Ryan back to Mallory. He tries to have this like one-on-one conversation, but it's just not going well because the dude, like Homelander, doesn't know how to be a good dad. They're like two heads of the same coin. I think that's the quote. Homelander makes this comment.
This isn't the Neverland Ranch.
And this is a reference to Michael Jackson's estate known as the Neverland Ranch, and you know what he's alluding to. Homelander reminds us that he has X-ray vision by seeing Butcher's tumor caused by the Temp V that last season he got, then promptly leaves announcing,
I do not want to miss Smash Mouth.
Unfortunately, Smash Mouth lead singer Steve Harwell passed away on September 4th, 2023, but maybe he still lives on in the boys universe. The band Mother's Milk is spying in has tags for 2023, and Sage's license expires in May of 2023, so this takes place in 2023, and the lead singer of Smash Mouth very well could still be alive. And then right on cue, we get the intro for Smash Mouth's Walking on the Sun as Kimiko and Frenchie break into Newman's hotel room to swap the eye drops. Zoe gets a good look at Frenchie and Kimiko, which is interesting simply because she immediately reveals her powers to them as well. So Zoe knows their faces and they know Zoe's a soup. Both sides of information feel highly dangerous and collateral somewhere down the line in the series. Zoe in self-defense unleashes her 4 tentacles out of her mouth. These might have replaced her wisdom or molar teeth. You can see how far they go from the outline of her cheeks. She gets shot 3 times, but my girl is still standing. Her little tentacles also have teeth. They're just gross. I don't like it. After scuffling with Kimiko, she rips off her arm, which is crazy. Her tentacles are strong enough to rip a human limb off. In the trailer, we see an amputated leg as well. And at this moment, I believe Zoe ripped that leg off too. Once Kimiko jumps out the window, the lights begin to flicker, and this is Starlight in the area using her powers to fly in and save the day. Kimiko's regrowing arm is too short to grab Starlight's hand. Also, we get this like E.T., like the Sistine Chapel finger touching moment here, and I just like it. Newman confronts Huey, and they're close friends, or you know, so she thinks they are. Newman used to be the head of the FBSA, the Federal Bureau of Superhuman Affairs, which basically just stops suits and holds them accountable for their actions, and that's when she worked alongside with Huey, and they became very, very close. She brings up Huey's use of Temp V last season, which gave him teleporting powers, and yes, he did it when he was naked. Huey tries the acid on Newman, which is now the reveal moment where we realize that's what he wanted to put in the eye drops. It doesn't work on her though, not even a burn mark. All soups are slightly stronger than normal people and can hear better than normal people, but seems like this is a big expansion of Newman's powers. Like, is she impervious to damage? Her hair isn't even burned by the acid, it's just the suit? Why is this woman so strong? And later, Butcher's bullet to the brain does nothing. This shows that the boys have no idea how Victoria's powers work. Even if you blinded her, could she still manipulate blood? Like, there's a lot of questions here for this. Newman has a real moment with Huey here, and I don't think she's manipulating him. I think part of her does long for the life she had before getting too deep into her own current mess, and I don't think Huey is really hearing her out here because he's focused on trying to blind her. Newman references War Games. This is a film from 1983 with a very young Matthew Broderick that taught an entire generation about mutually assured destruction. See what we're doing here? Butcher shoots Newman in the head, but you can hear the bullet ricochet around the van and almost hit Huey, and honestly, she's kind of cool as hell for that. That's a real badass move. Then we're taken to the CIA building and there's a placard that reads, in memory of Susan Rayner, deputy director who gave her life in the service of her country, we are in debt. This is Jennifer Esposito's character whose head got popped by Victoria Newman. Mother's Milk is here to see Grace as the new leader for the team, and Butcher is about to meet with Joe Keesler. Clearly, Grace and Butcher aren't on good terms because he let Homelander get away with Ryan. That's like if a gun could hang out with a bomb. This is when we learn that Robert Singer is trying to get rid of Victoria Newman, and that dude better be careful because she's just gonna kill him and become president herself. It just seems like a stupid idea to get a bunch of humans to kill a soup who can just kill you all. Pop, 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 pop. He points out that eliminating Newman is Mother Milk and the boys' top job, so he's very much aware that she's a supe. Not many people know that she's a supe, but the boys, Grace Mallory, Homelander, and Marie Moreau from Gen V, and I'm sure others have spoken about it with Marie at this point, but as of right now, her being a supe is still kinda secret. Singer says this.
God damn it. Everyone told me to pick Buttigieg instead.
Didn't know, sir.
And this is a reference to our current US Secretary of Transportation who ran for president in 2020 and was considered a potential VP pick for Joe Biden. Mallory confirms that the CIA is still bankrolling the boys. She also floats the idea of Starlight, aka Annie, using her powers to blow out Newman's eyes, but Mother Milk doesn't know if that would work. And again, no one knows how to take her down. This is when Mother Milk's phone goes off and his ringtone for Monique is Never Gonna Give You Up by Rick Astley, which is an oddly specific song for right now, but he also is very much still in love with Monique. We all knew that. Jeffrey Dean Morgan appears as Joe Kiesler. In the comics, this guy, whose first name was Howard, was nicknamed Monkey. He had an amputee fetish because the comics are rough. They are gross and weird. He got his nickname for a monkey having sex with his ear. It's just a lot, and I'm glad they're not including this. Anyway, he's a CIA analyst and provided the boys with help and intel. As some of you may know, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, Kiesler, played Jensen Ackles, Soldier Boy's father in Supernatural, another Kripke show. Now he's talking about Soldier Boy killing Homelander, and Soldier Boy is Homelander's father, so it's a lot of father-son crossovers with the same actors for the same kind of show. Coincidence? No, because Kripke wants Hideki now. Kripke's just making Supernatural and making them very weird. Kiesler also mentions Butcher having a clear shot, and my first question was, how does he know that? The same way information spread about how he let Homelander take Ryan, because as Kiesler mentions, Butcher is kind of the talk of the office. Everyone knows and is gossiping about it. The two talk about being in Panjshir Valley in Afghanistan, then we jump over to Mother's Milk. Mother Milk apartment number is 42, not that it matters, but that number shows up everywhere. It's the Jackie Robinson number, I presume. Black people love Jackie Robinson. I mean, what's not to love? We all love Jackie Robinson. And he also has a Richard Pryor poster below Obama's presidential portrait in his house. Homelander is asleep and clearly having nightmares. We see a bunch of different traumatic scenes, some new and some old. Homelander hears voices in his dreams, Stillwell saying, "You have to be good." We hear Jonah Vogelbaum, Stan Edgar, maybe even Stormfront. And then we get to see these flashbacks, and these are what I really want to get into. Lasering Stillwell from the finale of season 1, Stormfront from season 2, episode 5, and May from the finale of season 3. What's interesting here is Stillwell and Stormfront promised and betrayed Homelander's trust, and Maeve never loved him, used him, and she never really told him to trust her, and she's able to block his beams. It's like how she's actually the most trustworthy person. Him killing Black Noir from season 3, episode 8. I assume this is young Homelander. Before season 2's premiere, Prime Video released a snippet of young Homelander learning to be American, and this looks to be around the same age. This scene we also kind of got a glimpse of in the trailer. A toddler being watched by scientists from season 1, episode 6. Stormfront feeling him up from the premiere episode of season 3 when she was still touching him. Gross. Crushing the guy's head with Stormfront from season 2, episode 6. Threatening Starlight in the elevator from season 2, episode 4. The reveal to Starlight that Homelander had killed Supersonic from season 3 to episode 4. Destroying Blind Spot's eardrums from season 2, episode 1. The Red Door again. Homelander laying in Stormfront's empty bed after she died. Destroying the private plane carrying the mayor of Baltimore and his son and staff in season 1. Making the suicidal girl jump off the building during the annual birthday save after finding out Stormfront committed suicide. The man he killed last season who threw the bottle. The vision of him lasering a crowd. Killing of Black Noir. Killing Doppelganger. Crying into the mirror. Finding his white pube. The Red Door again, but in a close-up, in the quickest shot, we see this young boy screaming. This, which I don't recognize, but I think is a young Homelander being tested, possibly in this red room. The long hair matches the same shot of the boy we saw earlier being guided into it. We're at his trial, and this dry look was the photo of Vought International posted on Twitter on May 3rd. This was a court drawing of a very unenthused Homelander. They're trying to defend him, saying that this is a mere chalk drawing that could never capture his alert and laser focus, which was being mimicked by the courtroom sketch artist during Trump's trial, who his supporters have said is purposefully making him look upset. This episode really focuses on Homelander's mental health and his battles internally, which are very interesting ways to go about it, because they're not trying to give him a redemption arc. He's just like freaking tired, and they want us to see that. The shots change, and so do these locations, but Homelander is staying the same with the same face, the same pose. He's just done, and every day is the same. Ashley says they're behind on the tower reconstruction due to the damage from last season, and they were still renovating this during Gen V. Then we see the news. NNC, which is CNN backwards, is the news station within the boys. The news crawl reads, Brett Favre, childhood obesity justifies diverted food bank funds. A reminder that in our world, Favre was charged with diverting funds that were set aside in Mississippi for needy families to pay for speeches he never gave, and building a new volleyball facility at his daughter's university that is also his alma mater. Web Weaver discharged from Global Wellness Center in Malibu. This time it's different. Web Weaver is the boys' version of Spider-Man, who's rumored to appear this season. The Deep is on one-on-one with Haley Miller. Haley Miller reappeared in season 3 of The Boys. She's also the one that interviews Marie in Gen V. Haley speaking on Cassandra's newest tell-all autobiography. Cassandra, the Deep's ex, wrote a book and spoke on it in the finale of the 3rd season. It's called Into Deep, My Journey to Freedom. He also makes a clear joke about the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp trial about pooping in the bed.
Just a racist rumor and a ridiculous lie perpetuated by a jilted and emotionally unstable, hysterical woman who, let's be clear, pooped in my bed.
We get our first look at Black Noir after Homelander killed him. The Deep greets him, and I guess there's a world in which people just don't know he's dead, though once he talks, I'm sure everyone has figured it out. This season, Nathan Mitchell, who played Black Noir before, is playing a new version of the character for this current season, which I assume is a Black Noir that just can't stop talking. Ashley mentions the debacle at Georden, saying she's thankful for Homelander coming in and saving her life. As we remember, this was the event in Gen V where Kate and Sam terrorized Georden, and the press made it look like Marie, Andre, Emma, and Georden did it. So like I mentioned earlier, this takes place a couple months, maybe even just 1 month between the events of Gen V and season 4. On the board, we see a list of 25 choices, and we're gonna go through them all. Number 1 is Talon. In the comics, Talon was kind of like Catwoman character with long claws who did petty crimes and ended up having a threesome with Tech Knight, the guy who, you know, holes that we saw in Gen V, and his sidekick. And I don't think she's been mentioned in the show yet at all. Number 2 is Europa. Europa was mentioned in season 3 of The Boys. He's wanted for murder and went MIA, hence why his status here is unknown. In the comics, he was a German teleporter, obviously a parody of Nightcrawler. Number 3 is Hyperion. Okay, so Teenage Kicks was the junior superhero team that A-Train came from, and his dead ex-girlfriend Popclaw as well. They're like a parody of like the Teen Titans. And according to the show Wiki, Mesmer was also a member and wore the name of the t-shirt once. In the comics, they were always having orgies and doing awful things like stealing cancer kids' meds and shit. And as far as I know, there's no Boys comic character named Hyperion, but there is a Marvel superhero with that name. Number 4 is The Standard. The Standard was mentioned on the show before. He was a member of the teenage superhero group Young Americans, a religious version of Teenage Kick, and the team Starlight and Drummer Boy came from. I think he was also an original character, not from the comics. Number 5 is Lady Arclight. Lady Arclight was a character from the comics on the team The Paralactics. They were all cybernetically enhanced. Number 6 is Dognot. In the comics, he was another member of Teenage Kicks and kind of looked like a dog and wore a dog collar. He's a parody of Beast from X-Men. I don't think he's been mentioned in the show yet. Number 7 is Malchemical. Mentioned on the show before, Frenchie took him out. He was later hired to DJ a party for the 7. In the comics, he was a shapeshifter who shapeshifted and tricked Starlight into banging. Number 8 is Big Game. We saw him briefly in season 1, another Teenage Kicks member from the comics. Number 9 is Tech Knight. We saw him in Gen V, the TV host who likes to, you know, bang holes. Number 10 is Sister Sage. We know from the trailers that she's going to be one of the new members of the 7, and it's played by Susan Hayward. She's the original for the show. Number 11 is the Divine. In the comics, all the G-Men were kids kidnapped and brainwashed by a pedophile, so the show mostly stayed away from that plot line. The Divine was gay and a parody of Angel from X-Men and hasn't been mentioned before in the show. Number 12 is Incineron. He's mentioned briefly in the comics, but no real details about him. Number 13 is Dr. Peculiar. From the comics, an obvious parody of Doctor Strange. He's a pimp who provides sex workers for soups. Gotta hate him. Number 14 is Shout Owl. He was a member of Teenage Kicks from the comics, and he hasn't been mentioned in the show either. Number 15 is Stacker. He's a parody of Colossus, also mentioned in the comics as a member of G-Force. Number 16 is Airbus. He's a minor character from the comics as well. Number 17, Luckless. She's a minor comic character, and I don't think we've seen her on the show yet. Number 18 is Jetstreak, another character from the comics. Number 19 is Pit Stop, a minor character from the comics. Number 20 is Black Helmet, and I can't find any character with this name in the comics or mentioned on the show before, but it may be a variation of the comic character named 5-0. Number 21 is Holy Mary from the Young Americans, a character from the comics as well who dressed like a nun. Number 22 is Lord Horus, was briefly mentioned in the comics and was briefly mentioned on the show before. Number 23 is Wrangler, and we couldn't find anything on this character. This is new. Number 24 is Pinwheel, a character from the comics with gray skin and a pinwheel image on his forehead. And number 25 is Groundhog, a feral soup with sledgehammers for hands, a parody of Wolverine. He was in the animated series as well. And weirdly, 2 numbers recur at the bottom here. We got number 24 again, Invisilaz, a comic character and a parody of Invisible Woman. And number 25, we got Jimmy the One, who's a comic character and the leader of the Team Titanic. And yes, there is a team called Team Titanic. And then we get closer looks at some of their more specific bios like Talon, Hyperion, Dognaught, Sister Sage, who was a member of Teenage Kicks with A-Train, Wrangler, and then we jump to some quick clips of ads on the TV, and clearly this is a spoof of Trump asking for money for his legal defenses. We get some Vought news. Storm Chasers are now entering local elections across the country, so you know, that seems scary. A commercial for Vought on Ice that we will see later in episode 3. It's at Vought Coin Arena. Vought announced Vought coins back in 2022 that you could use to buy Homelander's NFTs. NCC News Crawl reads, Homelander murder trial. Rumors of a rift between President-elect Singer and his VP begin to swirl after Newman says she's ready and will what? We can't read the rest. And then we're on the truth bomb with Firecracker. She has a DeSantis bumper sticker in the background, so you know she kind of sucks. Firecracker points out that an eye for an eye comes from the Jew section of the Bible. And I hate that I have to break this down. In Leviticus 24:20, fracture for fracture, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, whatever injury he has given a person shall be given to him. Leviticus is one of the 5 books of the Old Testament that make up the Torah, so that's what she means here. Luckily, we switch to a picture of Butcher and Becca with their dog Terror, the English bulldog. Starlight is practicing her flying. Clearly, she's gotten better than the last season's finale, and Huey is timing her like a little coach. Then we see Mother's Milk reading a book, and this is a reminder that Mother's Milk deals with OCD as he reads a book called Conquering OCD. We can see that the boys' headquarters is still in the old office space that we saw last season for a company that was called Greywall & Co. This is a tribute to a production designer in season 1 and 2 of The Boys who passed away in 2020. Season 3, episode 1 was dedicated to him. We get this little exchange.
Amazing, I can fly 100 feet away from all my cares.
And drain the power grid at the same time. What would Greta say?
And this is a reference to climate activist Greta Thunberg. Huey ignores a call from his father, and this is just a reminder that Huey's dad is played by Simon Pegg, whom we will see sleeping later. And another reminder of Mother's Milk's classic shirts. It's a 50-cent one now, because my boy's always styling. We're now at the rundown Vought video, clearly a spoof of Blockbuster, down to even the color scheme and font. In the same strip mall, there's a vacant Church of the Collective reading room. This was the church/cult recently led by Alistair Adana, who Newman killed in season 2. This is the cult that the Deep and A-Train were briefly a part of. We see some movie posters for Static Heat 3 starring Polarity, who we met in Gen V. He's got a magnetic attraction to action. That's actually a good tagline. I am gonna steal that. We get a movie poster for an old Soulja Boy movie, and it looks like a biopic, maybe the Soulja Boy story, which was up for Best Picture at the 24th Academy Awards, but lost to An American in Paris. It's hard to see the front counter, but there's a poster for a Termite film, Big Crazy Love 2. We saw that poster in Gen V. Newman brings up the Red River Institute. Newman calls it a group home to make it sound less daunting. The Red River Institute was the orphanage Newman and Marie lived. Also, Stillwell's baby is still there, I believe. Back at the boys' headquarters, we're next to the Jitterbean. Jitterbean has often appeared throughout the boys and derived from the comics. In the trailer, when Kimiko tackles this man down while bubbles fly out of his skull, the boxes are for Jitterbean. And I think it's evolved from Black Noir coffee beans that were used to transport cocaine by the government. We see this in Grace Mallory's flashback in season 3, episode 3. We're now at Starlight House. She made a home for runaway teens in season 3, which is now a growing achievement. This member of the Starlight House is watching Truth Bomb with Firecracker on Instagram, and his name is Steve Snyder. His Instagram profile, though, is named The Amazing Snyder Man. It's a Spider-Man reference. The other accounts recommended to him are Soup Guy 74, Ultra Truther 911, and Starlight House of Sin. When the boss walks in, quickly closes the laptop, so I don't think this guy is doing any kind of good research. I think he's a mole. Homelander is keeping Stormfront's Nazi wedding photo, Madeline Stillwell's breast milk bottle, and a sword that I believe belongs to Black Noir, and a jar of his gray pubes. All mementos from people he loved, including himself. Also, all 3 people whose death he was responsible for in one way or another. And I just remember when we first saw this jar of pubes, we were all like, what is that jar? Is he gonna clone himself? And it's just him collecting his gray pubes. Egg on our face. Pubes on our face. All the items being remnants of dead ones that he loved that he also killed is interesting, since one of those are his own pubes, possibly a memory of himself to himself. He is an egotistical narcissist, and I don't think it's beyond him to love himself to a degree that's smothering himself too. His TV screen is Washington crossing the Delaware, and come on, dude, we get it. From there, we jump to my new favorite character, Sister Sage. Sage listens to a different book on tape while reading Naming and Necessity by Saul Kripke, who is the second cousin once removed by the show creator, Eric Kripke. Saul was an analytic philosopher, and this book is a series of his lectures diving into the philosophical questions about language and theories around naming and identity. Based on the passage we can hear in his headphones, basic approach is most likely to remain unconvincing. One such area is the notion of mathematical rule. That was a big sentence for me. She's listening to Conceptual Relevance by Joseph Grunfeld. The chapter of the book she's listening to is titled Kripke on Wittgenstein as Skeptic. And this actually references Saul Kripke's work, the author of the book she's reading. Sage wears a shirt for the Palace of Auburn Hills, former basketball basketball arena known as the Palace, where the Detroit Pistons and the Detroit Shock played. Just as a reminder, she's from Detroit. Homelander begins the runner of smartest woman on Earth. Earlier in the meeting, A-Train called her the smartest person on Earth, maybe showing that he respects her. He also mentioned that she was kicked from Teenage Kicks because she didn't know when to shut up, and she's quite talkative, and I love her for that. She has a ton of books in her house, like this brown paperback book that says Clear Skin Diet, which I think is just a joke, McGraw-Hill encyclopedias, thriller mystery novel The Fraternity of the Stone, Russian books, Beyond Human, a book on space and time, mind and the physical body. She's truly reading anything and everything. We get this scene that we heard from the trailer where Sage explains historically how humans always fail. We all need a hero, whom both Sage and Homelander agree Caesar has done. I like that Homelander mentioned she can stay there reeking of Taco Bell and loneliness, and then later we see her dining alone eating a bloomin' onion. This is the world she enjoys. She's probably only eating Taco Bell and reading. She wants to indulge. She likes this life. What also gets Sage interested in doing any of this, from what we see, is the fact that she can test her theories on the world, starting with America through the Seven. She's a maniac. She's a sociopath, but I still like her. Mother's Milk, Kimiko, and Frenchie are on the hunt for Todd after Monique requests Mother's Milk find him for Janine. They find Sister Sage and Todd and 2 other men walking into Planet Vought. Frenchie also mentions that Monique must have liked Todd because he must be packing some serious heat down below the belt. He refers to him having Pete Davidson energy, which, you know, the girls that get it. The girls that don't are me. Thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. Summer's almost here, but if you're feeling overwhelmed by the thought of beach days, pool parties, and barbecues, you might want to talk to somebody who can help you get in the right headspace to enjoy some hard-earned time off. And BetterHelp can help connect you to a therapist who's right for you. BetterHelp makes starting therapy easier and less intimidating for a lot of people. First, use our link to go to their site, betterhelp.com/newrockstars. The site will ask you to answer a few questions so BetterHelp can match you up with one of their over 30,000 therapists who they think can help you out the most. The therapist they pick for you will have tons of experience dealing with whatever you're going through. Every single one of their therapists is licensed, has a master's or doctorate degree, and has spent over 3 years and 1,000 hours working with people just like you. You'll be matched to a therapist usually within 48 hours, so you can get started fast. We've been promoting BetterHelp for a while and have heard some amazing feedback from you guys. We got permission to share this review from one of our viewers who said, "I've had a few therapists over the last couple of years. My therapist was the most open and accommodating therapist I've ever had. He listened when I needed to talk and told me some hard truths when I needed to listen. I couldn't recommend him more." Let BetterHelp connect you to a therapist who can support you, all from the comfort of your own home. Visit betterhelp.com/newrockstars or choose New Rockstars during sign up and enjoy a special discount on your first month. Inside Planet Vought, this is a restaurant parody of Planet Hollywood. They visited Planet Vought during season 2, episode 8. At that point, they had the Mocha Noir Shake, which I think is actually sitting in front of Black Noir right now. On the wall, they have figurines and dolls and photos of the Seven, still with Maeve, A-Train, and I think next to him is Crimson Countess. The other are harder to make out, but I think the TNT twins are the ones at the end, the ones that hosted Herogasm, and they're gross. We see a better angle later behind A-Train and Black Noir. I think this is Superbrain from Diabolical, or possibly Mindstorm from last season. Then The Deep, of course. Behind Sage is a comic book with Homelander on the cover, and on the bottom right is a comic for Cold Snap, a character from both the comics and was featured briefly in season 3. He's basically Iceman. And I love this athletic bag that is also branded by Vought Sports. Even the bat says Vought Sports on it. They own everything. A-Train never swings his bat, but does stop Todd from leaving. Then the new Black Noir speaks, and I don't like how quick he was to kill along with the Deep. They were very impromptu about killing, and I know A-Train doesn't deserve the best arc, but the other two absolutely had zero remorse, so someone needs to be punished. We then get the Cameron Coleman hour, and other than the trailer and some random social media apps from Vought, we have confirmation here that Ezekiel is alive. As we wait for the verdict, it says at the bottom, "I pray the jury ends this miscarriage of justice." Ezekiel is the Christian soup who ran capes for Christ. He was blackmailed by Huey for engaging in sex with another man in season 1, and he didn't just like die, he just kind of fell off. In an ad for reusable catheters from Vought Pharmaceuticals poking fun at Fox News and its similar commercials, and we tried calling the number on screen and it just hangs up, so it's not real. We see protest signs galore. Homelander side say like, "Keep America safe, God, guns, and Homelander. Keep America, #Stormfront. Homelander, beer, freedom, soup lives matter, RRP," with Blue Hawk. Blue Hawk was the horrible racist that paralyzed A-Train's brother. On the Starlight side, we have "I won't be silent anymore, fight like a girl, follow the light, resist, Starlight supports women, and Starlight Army." Homelander is found not guilty, and Sage throws her drink at a home teamer, initiating the fight. This is all part of her plan to frame the Starlighters, and A-Train assists with leaving the bodies of all the people they just killed at the scene. The NNC news crawl reads, "Wrangler's attorney in domestic violence case claimed girlfriend's fractured vertebrae not his fault. She had congenital defect. That man's a lunatic." After a hard day of being a monster, Homelander drinks an ice cold glass of milk, and he says it's to celebrate. what? And we know why he's obsessed with milk. I just don't want him giving Ryan breast milk. That's weird. That child's too old for breast milk. I don't know when you're supposed to stop weaning people off breast milk, but I feel like when they're 13, you should not be doing it. Ryan doesn't want Butcher to die and says his mom loved him. And as a reminder, Becca hated Homelander because Homelander assaulted her. Though he argues, how do you feel about Butcher? Which makes me feel like Ryan will become a bad guy at the end of the show. He's very young, he's very impressionable and very emotional and has the power of Homelander. It's easy to be pulled into the wrong direction or the wrong side with that much power. And I think he's angry and won't know where to place it. Deep is keeping Ambrosius in this closet. She's voiced by Tilda Swinton, and she has a little Deep figurine in her tank because, I don't know, Deep's weird and gross. I don't even want to think about it. In the back of the Deep's closet is filled with his stupid book, Deeper and Deeper by the Deep. Then we welcome Huey's mom, who I don't think is actually there. I think he's crazy from the temp compound V, just like what we're seeing with Butcher and like Homelander. These visions are never positive, so I believe their insecurities or fears are becoming real, and this is just a side effect caused by the schizophrenia caused from the temp compound V. Butcher looks at images from Victoria's records at the Red River Institute. These were stolen by Huey, and Victoria killed her parents, and these are those images. Instead of sending her that as collateral files, he sends a gaping ass, which, how is she surprised? If I got that sent to me by Butcher, I'd have been like, yeah, I asked for this. We end the episode on God Save the Queen by the Sex Pistols and Butcher taking a sip of that alcohol that nudges that little tumor in his brain. Episode 2. This episode is titled The Life Among Septics. Septics is Cockney slang for an American. So septic is short for septic tank, which rhymes with yank, so septic equals American. It's like in Ocean's 11 where Don Cheadle has that long explanation for why Barney equals trouble. This title is probably referencing Butcher's life among all these yanks. In the comics, Butcher always says things like, these septics make shit tea, insulting Americans too. This episode opens with Hypnotized by Biggie Smalls, recently featured in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, another Sony joint. Will Ferrell pulls up in the Illinois vehicle as a reminder A-Train's from Chicago, and this shtick is hilariously horrible. We're getting a Blind Side movie from A-Train where Will Ferrell plays the white savior-like coach, promising A-Train a warm meal and a nice place to stay to get out of the hood. He literally says, slanging yayo for gangbangers. The inspirational score is just sickening. The boys love taking these satirical approaches to Hollywood catastrophes, like when they made fun of the celebrity singing Imagine. It was horrible. A-Train is wearing a Bulls jersey. We're in Chicago, and Will Ferrell's jacket says South Chicago High School. They added in ADR, but Ferrell's playing Coach Brink from Godolphin University, who trained A-Train when he attended school there. Coach Brink was featured in the first episode of Gen V, where he was horribly set on fire. Adam Bork returns here, directing A-Train's biopic titled Training A-Train, produced by Vought Studios. He also directed Dawn of the Seven and taught at God U during Gen V. Bork calls Will Ferrell Streep. So Will Ferrell is literally in this show playing himself. I hate it and love it at the same time. When I thought it couldn't get worse, he mentions the blind side. He says, I'm not giving off too much of a blind side thing, am I? To which Borg asks, what, like it's a bad thing? Yeah, it is. A-Train then points out that his brother was his trainer when he was younger and worked at Buster Beaver as a waiter, and that's another Buster Beaver reference because they love Buster Beaver. The new Black Noir has a conversation with A-Train that I really like about Homelander, asking if they're supposed to do everything the man says. It's a fair question for a new group member. I also like that he asked, what's Black Noir's motivation? And we learn in the third episode he studied theater at Godolphin and Cirque des Vents in Montreal, so that's why he's so flexible and whatnot. We're back at the hospital, this time for Kiara. Cameron Coleman talks about the 2 murderous starlighters that killed the 3 random men at the courthouse. Benny Long and Ian Rashford, these men haven't really come up in like comics or crew names, so I think they're just random people. Huey's mom reveals she's a Vaughtality consultant, meaning Vought has their own Herbalife, Avon, Mary Kay, those like style multi-level marketing companies. Huey is wearing also a Neil Young Harvest album t-shirt. He's staying on brand. Huey and his mom have a deep conversation about how she's in charge of what happens to Huey Sr. if he doesn't wake up. And I just want to remind everyone that she might still not be real. She still hasn't been noticed by anyone else but Huey. Kimiko has been going to therapy and speech therapy, which is more than I can say for what these freaking boys are doing on this show. Not a single one else has gone to therapy. And I think the closest Homelander ever got was like burning people's heads off. Kimiko is obsessed with this mouse on the shelf, which we later see in her flashback of the Shining Light Liberation Army. Her brother's nickname she gave him was Mouse. So staring at this figurine probably brings up a lot of emotions. And it makes sense once the therapist brings up the dead parents and she completely breaks the armrest. Her family is clearly a trigger for Kimiko. Mother's Milk is now wearing wearing a t-shirt that says Eric B and Rakim, keeping it up with the hip hop and rap t-shirts. Love Eric B and Rakim. Butcher finally tells the gang he's dying, and twice in this conversation he says something to Becca, who we know is not there, but it seems like he's speaking to the team. This feels like something that will certainly get him in trouble through the rest of the season and makes him look like a lunatic. Seth Reed and Evan Lambert are back pitching origin stories for Ryan. Reminder that Seth had his penis frozen off by Ice Princess. The duo pitched Starlight's sexy new outfit and Brave Maeve LGBTQ campaign, as well as A-Train's idea to return to his roots in season 3. Seth Reed is named after The Boys executive producer Seth Rogen, and Evan Lambert is named after the show executive producer Evan Goldberg. We see the costume for Homeboy, Homelander's sidekick, with cool edgy name. He has the same eagle symbol as Homelander does as well. Sage says the Homeboy outfit blows more than Nancy Reagan in the MGM backlot. Now, this stems from a real life rumor that Nancy Reagan was, in better words, the throat goat, and was known to do business in the MGM offices. The rumor was covered in books and articles and became a hit on Twitter and birthed great tweets like this one. She also mentions how Vought got rid of most of the sidekicks after Gunpowder, who was Soulja Boy's sidekick that reported Soulja Boy for harassment to HR, which Homelander makes fun of in the next scene. I love that Sage reps Detroit on her t-shirts as much as Mother Milk reps like hip hop and rap groups on his. It's a weird little nod, but I like that the characters bring a little flair just through their wardrobe, which is hard to do when you're constantly around superheroes with insane suits to stand out next to. This is a Coney Island diner shirt. I went to Coney Island in Michigan once and it was aight, and I'm sure that's fighting words to anyone on the East Coast, and I'm sorry. The West, we just ain't got it like that. Sage deduces America loves the lone white boy saviors and uses Luke Skywalker and Harry Potter as examples, and damn, I love those white boys, so she's right. She hands over the Vought itinerary, which works as a call sheet for Ryan's first soup save, and at the top they have the offices for Vought publicity. This is all such an extraordinary production and act, and this isn't new. The Seven barely work. They are cheerleaders, entertainers, moneymakers. They act, they don't save. Hell, as a unit, I think they've done more harm than good, so it makes sense a lot of their saves are choreographed and orchestrated. I love this look that Ashley gives Sage, recognizing how a woman actually rules. This is what she should be doing, but she has no fear of Homelander, something Ashley is only made of. Ashley looks like a giant next to Sage in this shot. She's in heels, but also Sister Sage is like 5'3" from her sheet. Additionally, Sage uses her powers of observation again and recognizes Ashley's been pulling her hair out due to stress, though she knows about the breast milk fetish and Madeline Stillwell, and how does she know about that? Through her keen observation, I assume she knows most of his intake is breast milk, but she's probably had access to his files by now. That's the only way that she knows this. And also, how can no one see what Sister Sage is doing? She's making everyone work against each other. I love her. We see Huey, like Butcher earlier, speaking to someone that's just not there. It's like he's speaking to himself, and truthfully, I think he is, but I think he's speaking out loud to drown out his mom's voices in his head. We see Kimiko's new possible therapist, Dr. Katrin Roderick. I don't like that she uses a Vought email, but in this universe, Vought owns basically everything, so imagine they also owned and operated like Google. Mother's Milk brings up Sage's license, and I like that it's the same photo as her photo for being a superhero. Her name is also Jessica, and honestly, go off girl, me too, we're almost one and the same. I'm just not a lunatic. They start running a rehearsal for Ryan's first solo save, and in the rehearsal we see Amazon Prime packaging box to remind us this is an Amazon Studio show once again. Also, criminal number 1 is wearing a Starlight mask. Coy is wearing a shirt for Brand X Stunts, a real stunt studio that works for the boys. Coy is one of the members and nickname for his real name, John Koyama. Vought Garden Inn Suites and Courtyard Express, basically a knockoff Holiday Inn or Marriott. The designers must have had a real field day, must have the time of their lives making TruthCon. Butcher says, welcome to the Monkey House, which is also the name of the Kurt Vonnegut book. Lots of God, flat earthers, and gun stuff. I also like one of the booths that simply says Starlight is a lizard person playing off the lizard people conspiracy theory. The song playing is the Talking Heads Burning Down the House, a song about being careful about what you wish for, but also loosely rumored it's about a man who burns down his house because he's so deep in debt. You get the gist, he's paranoid. We're all paranoid here. They even memed the Minions using their name as a pun for being slaves to programming, but using the Star of David, so telling us not to trust Jewish people, I guess? I don't know these people, I don't go to these events. They're already memorializing Todd, who doesn't need to be. We got comparisons to Bob Singer and the Devil, merch for Firecracker's Truth Bomb show, a sign announcing Soulja Boy being held captive by the CIA, which is actually true. Grace watched him go into the cryogenic freezer. More visual theories that Starlighters are holding babies captive. Soup Lives Matter. They've used this phrase a lot for a while, especially in Gen V. This sign for the internet is dead, quiet internet theory, which I assume is the play off the dead internet theory, the conspiracy that the internet now consists mainly of bots to manipulate algorithmic curation and automatically generated content to manipulate all of us. A poster saying Soulja Boy plus Liberty equals secret lovers? I didn't think that was much of a secret. In 1950s, for a while, Stormfront went by the name of Liberty, and during Herogasm, Soulja Boy confirmed he and Liberty founded the event in '52. She was a firecracker. This child child reading the white power pamphlet, doesn't he look like Ryan? I think that's why Butcher stares at him for a little longer than any other booth here. These kids are easily just impressionable at that age, and we're seeing it right here. Also, what would a Vought hotel be without the 7 being mentioned? They have a separate room called Deep's Blue Sea, which will be important shortly. Frenchie asks why would the smartest person in the world be here, and we know it's the fine firecracker, but these people are also easily influenced and quick to act. They don't ask the right questions, so controlling them is much easier. You have to control the narrative, and that begins with the masses, and using people who control those masses makes it easier. Someone like Firecracker with her news show. Kimiko sees the Children Freedom Fighters poster and immediately gets flashbacks to the Shining Light Liberation Army. We've seen and learned about them through Kimiko and her brother. They kidnapped Kimiko, killed her parents, and gave her Compound V, then sent her to America to commit terrorist attacks. We saw the flashback of the flag way back in season 1, episode 6. We see the origami her brother made that was left by the ship that crashed in season 2, episode 1. Then her brother when they kept him hostage. Kimiko is clearly going through a lot, and it looks like much of her and Frenchie's storyline centers around their past. I like that they have Stella and Bud, then A-Train speeding Bullet Ale, and Kimiko pounds those bad boys. We segue to Firecracker's live show. The song playing is Love America by Fortress 2. Here we have Splitter, played by another Kripke actor regular. Rob Benedict played Chuck and God, spoiler alert, I'm sorry, I should have said that earlier, on Supernatural for many seasons. His shirt says Starlight is a pedo. We saw him using his powers in the trailer. He has a drink set up for Firecracker. It looks like a Mountain Dew, but it also is like in a deep themed cup, so everything's merchandised. Firecracker has a theory of how ordering something gets you a child in the mail. Special order equating to what kind of kid you want is like that Wayfair conspiracy from a few years back that was completely insane. That was a QAnon conspiracy that said that people ordered specific products on Wayfair and then they got sex trafficked kids delivered to them. And Firecracker's just basically playing with that conspiracy theory. Kimiko says that she's the barista at the Jitterbean, and that's the coffee shop that we saw earlier. Hello. Kimiko and Frenchie follow Splitter to the locker room, and I'm sure I can't fully detail or even show you this scene, but they walk in on him using his duplication powers to his own well. Never in my 30 years, 20 some years of working did I ever think I would say that sentence out loud. And again, this show is made for adults. Also, why would you do that in the middle of a convention? What the hell's wrong with you? Go home. Luckily, we turn away from the Brown scene. I'm funny. To Greener Pastures, the South Riverwalk Park in New Jersey. And Huey starts talking to himself again like a crazy person. They track down A-Train to this park to figure out how he correlates to the 3 dead home teamers. He's at the park with his nephews when his brother interrupts. A-Train's older brother Nathan was originally his coach like we mentioned earlier, and he was paralyzed by Blue Hawk when Blue Hawk went to the community center to apologize to the black community and then lost his shit when the community was basically like F off, because F off. Sage approaches Firecracker and asks if she actually believes this shit or is it just some bullshit smeared on top of personal vendetta, which bingo, we learned this in episode 3. How does she do it? How is she so perceptive? I don't think it's a superpower to be highly aware or to read so much you know historically what works and what doesn't, though Sage like nailed it immediately, and her powers are insane. I need to figure it out. We also see Firecracker's little powers at play, and yes, she's modeled after Jubilee. Kimiko spirals, getting too drunk, and immediately takes her anger out on this poster. She pushes a man down in protest and argues how this is all bullshit, and the man doesn't even understand sign language. Frenchie stops her and offers himself as a punching bag so others don't suffer, and he's just like what he did with Mesmer and Kimiko in season 1. A-Train brings Huey and Starlight the evidence that Starlighters didn't do it, and he's trying to be good now. His values are finally coming back. Then we're at Ryan's solo save. A bank robbery at Vought Bank, and the hostage being a little girl with red pigtails just like it was in rehearsal. Raoul's World 365 is recording the event on Instagram Live, and I like how the comment asks if the guns are even real, and another comment mocks Noir and the Deep just standing there in the background. Once Ryan swoops in, the comments change to cheers and applauds for Homelander's son. Then at the right moment, just the perfect moment, Homelander comes in to help Ryan, which was clearly not planned or scripted. People have mixed views of him showing up, and I like that Zendaya fan 11 is plugging their bio filled with Zendaya's hottest fits, like the Dune fit. That was a spicy fit. Ryan, I'm sure embarrassed and kind of thrown off his groove, uses too much force and quickly kills Coy. Thank God the girl nails her line still. Back at TruthCon Deep's Blue Sea Room next to Queen Maeve's all genders bathroom, Jesus Christ, they begin setting up their spy devices. That's when they're interrupted by Firecracker, Splitter, and all these duplicates. He's like, duplicate. Firecracker calls Frenchie a surrender monkey. In the comics, The Boys number 3, 3 guys at a cafe called Frenchie a surrender monkey, and he beats the ever-loving hell out of them. Surrender monkey obviously was like a negative term for the French based on their seemingly quick surrender to the Nazis in World War II. Though to be fair to the French, it was some cowardly French politicians who were surrendered, and plenty of French citizens bravely fought against their occupiers as part of the domestic resistance. And in grosser news, Splitter gave himself pink eye from eating his own This is when everyone begins to tussle. We see Splitter split, and he's now just naked, flopping around all over the place. And a bit of shameless cross-promotion for Marvelous Miss Maisel from Amazon. Here we go. There's a wedding. They're interrupting it. And it's all themed like the Marvelous Miss Maisel. It's the Marvelous Miss Rachel, and I love Miss Rachel. The DJs are even dressed like Miss Rachel. No one will ever make me hate you, Miss Rachel. I love you. Then all hell breaks loose, and I'm sure we'll blur out all these parts because there's just too many but Frenchie and Mother's Milk are taking out these clones. And I like the Prime one is hiding behind the wall because if he dies, they all die. He shoots Kimiko in the head, though she's not dead. That's when Firecracker immediately goes live on Instagram, which is a smart move because the public only gets to see her side. So she's really good at controlling this narrative. When she shows the proof, she spins her phone to Tony Shalhoub, which is very funny in the moment. I'll give her that. Luckily, Butcher comes in to save the day and pisses off Splitter. Then Butcher shoves a crowbar through Splitter's head, killing Prime Splitter, thus killing the rest. And I like that he confesses his love to Firecracker, who doesn't care, and just eventually runs away out of fear. We're now back at Homelander's penthouse with Ryan, who he's trying to serve a creamy, delicious milkshake. Stop letting him have milk. I hate it. Ryan is upset over killing Coy, and Homelander believes it was about him showing up, which shows the humanity in Ryan even when he's only exposed to Homelander. He's still trying to be a good boy. He scolds Ryan, then takes away his milkshake, and oh no, what will I ever do without that breast milkshake? Ugh, God, please. It's f***ing filthy. Frenchie Drunk and High calls Sherry his friend we've seen throughout the seasons, but last we saw her was during Herogasm in season 3. Here we find out that Colin was the son of a judge whose family was killed by Frenchie. Kimiko frantically grips the therapist card but yearns for something else. That's when we see her laptop. The Shining Light terrorist group is in New York. They've captured 2 men. Vengeance is what's for dinner for her. Our girl heads out alone, and we get this monologue that Butcher said in the trailer requesting help from Mother's Milk, who just isn't taking it, isn't having it, and Butcher leaves, and we end episode 2. The third episode is titled "We'll Keep the Red Flag Flying Here," a reference to the socialist song known as the Red Flag that is also the anthem for the British Labour Party. The song is traditionally sung at the closing of the party's national conference. The boys' choir is from the Samaritans Embrace, the Christian charity led by Stretchy Soup Ezekiel, who we saw in season 1. The organization was a front for V distribution to hospitals. Trump used to have little kids singing at his rallies, the USA Freedom Kids, so it's a play off that. We saw this bit from the trailers, the reveal of Sister Sage and Firecracker as the new members of the Seven, also a divide between the Starlighters and the Home Teamers as well. It's very quick, but this man is also wearing a sweatshirt that says Blacks for Homelander, and gross. Disgusting. Also, it's an obvious parallel to the Blacks for Trump shirts seen at the Trump rallies. Funny enough though, this guy's just standing there and not even like clapping or cheering. Then an old white guy yells, "String her up!" This is obviously a parody to the "Lock her up!" Homelander introduces the other members of the Seven, and they come on stage to the song "I Wanna Rock" by Twisted Sister. Twisted Sister frontman Dee Snider is extremely liberal. He was a contestant on The Celebrity Apprentice. When Trump started using Twisted Sister, "We're not gonna take it" at his rallies, Dee Snider, who is against censorship in any form, said he wouldn't tell Trump not to use the song, but then later reconsidered and asked him to not use it. So Homelander using this song is absolutely intentional on the part of the writers. Sister Sage does Professor X's like hand to the side of the temple move to indicate that her powers involve her brain. On NNC, the news says Homelander introduces new 7 members, and the crawl says audit of Homelander Legal Defense Fund reveals nearly all donations were spent on portraits of Homelander. The cookie jar on the top of the fridge looks like a bulldog, and in the comics, Terror was Butcher's bulldog that would just have sex with anything, other animals, people, whatever, on command. We saw Terror in the picture with Becca and Butcher earlier in the episodes. I like the close-up of Sister Sage's outfit here because she has an upside-down Illuminati symbol. When we see Starlight, the news exclaiming she's back, the news below reads, "Starlighters galvanized." The crawl reads, "Guardians of Godokin, Sam and Kate to join the 7 members at V52 Expo." We know the 2 will be making an appearance this season, and we've seen it in the trailer. V52 must be a VOT Expo, maybe 52 years in running. The remaining crawl says officials issue bulletin increasing terrorism advisory system level to something. We can't see it. This is probably regarding the Shining Light Liberation Army that Kimiko is tailing. Huey talks with this weirdo that was watching Firecracker's show earlier. He's reading over Huey's mother's rights with his dad, and he's basically telling him it's pretty cut and dry. And this kind of blows a hole in my theory unless Huey wrote it or his dad did do this and his mom just isn't actually there. I wonder if Huey is just gonna like inject his dad with Compound V to try and bring him out of his coma or some shit, because it's something Huey would do. It's a stupid move and it's not worthy, but he'll do it. Then this man walks in threatening to hurt everyone in search of the missing baby Starlight stole. This is really what some nutjob did around the time of Pizzagate conspiracy. A guy from North Carolina walked into the shop, fired an AR-15 because he wanted to be the hero that rescued those kids. Pizzagate was the conspiracy theory that there were kids being trafficked into a pedophile ring by the Democrats, obviously, out of the comic Ping Pong. Huey's also repping a Dolly Parton shirt because you gotta keep up that theme. Victoria Newman arrives just on time, and she's carrying in the Superhero Management Act a legislative agenda. I assume the legislative agenda is exactly what it says, it manages superheroes. What we don't know is to what degree. A big part of season 2 was how involved Supes could be in the military. In Gen V, it was about holding Supes accountable for their actions. So this legislative act probably enforces what Vought has control of and what Supes can do. He mentions how the Department of Justice is filing antitrust charges. However, Singer wants to ban Supes from the military, private policing, and other government positions. Kimiko has located a shining light cell nearby. In an excuse to face her past, she's going to kill the men who hurt her and continue to hurt children. Mother's Milk is now repping an MF Doom jacket. MF Doom was a British American rapper who passed away in 2020. I don't need to explain that. You should all know who MF Doom is. If you don't know by now, go research it. Then Mother's Milk discloses how he wants to flip A-Train. Huey wants to bring back Butcher. They're all starting to argue, and then Kimiko and Frenchie just leave on their separate mission. Firecracker unabashedly tells the camera that she's proud to be a woman who made it all the way to the 7 without blowing anyone to get there, which plays on 2 events. One, Starlight was tricked in going down on the Deep when she first joined the 7. Then she talked about it publicly, and the Deep got banished to a crappy state until getting back in the 7's good graces. And 2, Starlight spread that rumor about Firecracker during their pageant circuits, but Starlight doesn't know that yet. We get Ryan playing a new game. It's a Mortal Kombat style layout game called Tournament of Heroes. The loading screen has Homelander, who's now featured in Mortal Kombat 1 with horrendous fatalities. The remaining heroes on the screen are Queen Maeve, A-Train, and Black Noir. The flames blow away the loading screen to Super Ryan's hero picks. Top row is A-Train the Deep. The second row is Crimson Countess, Homelander, Black Noir, Queen Maeve. Then we got Webweaver, Tech Knight, Lamplighter, Blue Hawk, Polarity, Translucent, Termite, and Ezekiel. He's joined by Butcher, who calls himself Don't Be a which would never really fly in online gaming, maybe for like a day, but someone would be reported. His controller is fashioned like a Switch meets an Xbox controller. It's kind of crazy. They fight with Lamplighter and Crimson Countess, who are both dead in real life. They fight at what remains near Vought Tower. The world is in total annihilation, and from the rubble rises Crimson Countess, landing into that Black Widow stance. From the flames emerges Lamplighter. Then the voice of Crimson Countess is Butcher speaking through his headset. Like Mortal Kombat, this game starts getting grotesquely violent for absolutely no reason. Then we get a news ticker, and it says Homelander surprises the world with the new 7 members, Firecracker and Sage, hints that his son Ryan could be the next. The new Black Noir says he studied performing arts at Godoken, which would be the Crimson Countess School of Performing Arts, which was considered than the crime-fighting major track. Sage tells Ashley the company still needs a figurehead, like Ronald McDonald or Buster Beaver, which was shady, and I loved it. Buster Beaver Pizza Restaurant is the Vought version of Chuck E. Cheese. It's also the source of Black Noir's animated emotional support friends. And in episode 5 of Gen V, Emma mentioned a traumatizing incident that happened at a Buster Beaver when she was a younger child. This is also where we learn Lars, aka the new Black Noir, is narcoleptic. The other Black Noir was just allergic to peanuts. The Deep was still in charge of crime analytics, but thankfully it was taken away from him. Ryan also received offers from Teenage Kicks and Capes for Christ. As we know, Teenage Kicks is where Sage and A-Train came from. Capes for Christ is where Starlight came from. This is when we see Ambrosius again in a dirty tank trying to reconnect with the Deep. Then they have this weird exchange like a married couple that are 2 humans and not a human and an octopus. She has a little statue of the Deep in her aquarium, and you can see the marks from her tentacles on the glass of the dirty tank, longing to be with her man. Ugh. It's revealed Ashley is banging Cameron Coleman, the Vought News anchor. We knew they were doing this back in season 3, episode 4. It's definitely both their kinks, but a way for Ashley to get her anger out. After a quick trip to Target, Butcher starts making some poisonous cookies. What's insane is these are like the literal brand from Target. Sometimes I buy these egged when I have to because there's a Target across the street from my house. And this is the carton that they come in. The flour is Market Pantry, that's a Target brand. Same with the brown sugar being Good and Gather, that's another Target brand. Butcher's weird, wormy tumor drifts from his neck to behind his ears. That's when Ryan shows up. Butcher starts bleeding from his ears and thus worries Ryan, and Butcher starts getting that fatherly instinct he was missing, and his values are coming back, and I'm so proud of him. At a track and field, we meet A-Train with Mother's Milk. He lured A-Train by pretending to be his brother on the phone, which is kind of fucked up. Mother's Milk mentions that raises white boy's heart that's in you. As a reminder, A-Train had a heart attack from all the Compound V he'd done, and when he killed Blue Hawk, A-Train was given Blue Hawk's heart in the transplant. I actually really like this conversation between A-Train and Mother's Milk because Mother's Milk knows better than anyone how they're gonna treat A-Train, and I love that he can see something finally stuck that's bringing his consciousness out of retirement. This bond I want to see more of in the show. Last season, Kimiko got her hallucinated musical number, and now it's Frenchie's turn for some hallucinatory fun. The organization is using Jitterbean coffee as a front for cocaine like they did with Black Noir's coffee back in the day. Kimiko breaks the man's neck and out pops little toy boats and ducks because Frenchie is completely high, and honestly it makes the murder feel fun until we see, the real thing, and it's just a man's neck imitating a waterfall. Frenchie wanders away during the fight and trips out seeing Colin and his family dead. Then it shows more people Frenchie has killed. Then the camera turns to the face of little Nina, who appeared in season 3. She's the Russian mob boss who used to be Frenchie's employer. She had him doing like everything. That's when Kimiko sees a girl that she knew back in the day at Shining Light. Back with Butcher and Ryan, he tells Ryan he and his little brother Lenny would always play foosball. Lenny has been mentioned before. He was very close to Butcher, however their dad was like extremely abusive, and later during season 1, Lenny killed himself, led by his father's abusive history. I also want to flag around Ryan. Butcher isn't drinking alcohol, he's drinking Stewart's original root beer. He's trying to be a good father figure. Back at the Vought Tower, they interrogate Annika. We shared an Almond Joy from time to time, she says, and we saw her eat an Almond Joy. Black Noir made her throw it out because of his nut allergy, and Annie told Huey that Almond Joys were her favorite candy, and he made fun of her for it. Sage and Homelander start beefing on their techniques because Homelander is a loose cannon and immediately resulting to violence all the time. In the background on the TV, Vought on Ice plays, which we'll get into shortly because this is the best part of the episode. Ashley then destroys her resignation letter because they'll probably kill her and think she's the mole, so now she has to stay at Vought out of fear. Firecracker gets Starlight's old room, and I also hate what she's done with it, but God, do I love that painting of that bear, dinosaur, and an eagle. This is when Firecracker reveals she and Starlight were on the same pageant circuit for 3 years. Starlight began her career doing Little Miss Hero pageant, which led to Capes for Christ, later to Young Americans, where she met Supersonic and eventually making it to the 7. During her time doing pageants, Firecracker, then Sparkler, made it to the finals against Starlight, when a rumor started circulating that 13-year-old Sparkler had sex with the judges. When she asked Starlight why she started this rumor, she said, "I don't talk to fat sluts." It's hard. You know, hell hath no fury like a child bullied. You know, you hold on to that stuff for like ever. So now we see her vendetta against Starlight, making sure everyone knows she's a villain. That's when we're taken to Vought on Ice. Queen Maeve takes the center skating to the Jitterbean during the holidays. This song is about saying Merry Christmas, no matter what. We have a full nativity scene with the 3 wise men and the Jitterbean employee pushing baby Jesus. Then out pops figure skating Homelander, and you couldn't fool me with that voice if you had tried. The singing is obviously done by Andrew Rannells. Gutenberg's, falsettos, Book of Mormon, have you heard of them? Also, this man straight up landed a triple axel like it was nothing. As you can see, this is Vought Coin Arena. It's like a shitty knockoff version of our crypto arena. We learned this musical is called A Very Super Christmas. Huey's now in the vents trying to plant a bug. That's when Sage and Homelander enter the scene. On the walls, you can see posters for A-Train's Ale and Vought Coin. On Noir's, it says virtually untraceable, because he is. Victoria Newman calls Firecracker Floribama Shore, which is the Florida version of the Jersey Shore on MTV. It's very too much. I didn't like that show. Sage is trying to help Newman take office. She mentions Newman needing plausible deniability when the 25th is invoked. Section 4 of the 25th Amendment gives the Vice President, along with the majority of the President's cabinet, the ability to remove the President from office if they decide that the President is unable to perform their duties. In this scenario, the Vice President would then become the President due to order of succession. And Sage wants a disbandment of Superhuman Affairs. The Federal Bureau of Superhuman Affairs is the government agency that monitors policies and sometimes arrests any supes accused of illegal activities. Newman and Huey both worked here, but Newman was the leader of it. She also wants her to condemn the defund the soups movement, the removal of all books and teachers that teach critical soup theory, a hero in every town with legal authority over the police, and finally, once in Oval, she shows the world who she truly is. This was asked by Homelander, and Sage makes a face because she knows that's when she lost Newman. We also see what the writers are doing here. This mirrors our Black Lives Matter and defunding the police, along with the policing what our schools teach regarding biology, gender studies, and sex education. Then Homelander asks Newman the question we've all been asking. Why does she want to be president? She told us that it's to keep her daughter safe, but it can't be the only reason. Then in the most cartoony way, a bead of sweat leaves Huey's face and lands on Homelander's shoulder. Seeing and smelling it, he knows Huey's hiding in the vents. That's when we're back to the Jesus nativity scene, and Jesus is coming down on the ropes, and I like that Jesus is just holding his baby self. The song is called Put the Christ Back in Christmas, and I kind of like it. It sounds pretty good. I don't like it. I don't like what it means. I just think it's funny. That's what I mean when I say I like it. Mother's Milk notices Huey's blown his cover, so he shines a stage light, those big heavy stage lights, at Homelander, whose laser beams shoot out and immediately slice figure skating Maeve in half. Everyone rightfully panics. A wise man pushes over an angel. Jesus cuts off the angel's fingers. A man gets his chest cut into. Jesus jumps the railing, slicing a wise man's throat instantly. Homelander is outside on the roof and he flies away because luckily A-Train has saved Huey. And God, doesn't Huey get saved by A-Train enough. Back at HQ, Starlight is drinking her sadness away when Kimiko and Frenchie enter and drink with her. NNC reports a massive electrical fire at Vought Coin Arena. Vought PR is already on top of it, changing the narrative. And we're back at the hospital and Huey's mom rests outside. The poster in the hospital with A-Train says a speedy recovery starts here. Huey speaks with his mom about how she left and why she left. She tells him how she was depressed after having Huey and she took over 40 Ambien and tried to kill herself and it didn't work, so she just left. And this is a moment where I think the 40 Ambien did work and she's dead and she's not actually there. Now, Kiesler is at Butcher for not giving Ryan that damn cookie. Kiesler understandably is nervous of Ryan growing into becoming Homelander because we all should. So they're trying to take him out now before he takes too much after him, which is valid because the world can't have another evil Homelander. It's like having two Darth Vaders. Sage is in her room watching season 16, episode 2 of Say Yes to the Dress. Randy just showed you the door. She's chilling, eating a bloomin' onion, and that's when she's interrupted by the Deep, who shares her bloomin' onion. She's just chill as hell. Sage offers Transformers 2, the one with the racist robots, the ones that we all know about. To that he says his good friend of his wants him to be in Honey Boy 2, the Shia LaBeouf movie. That's when the most unexpected thing happens and we see Sage and Deep go at it. I wasn't expecting it. There's a reveal here, something like a lobotomy tool with blood at the end of it. Behind her head, it looks like there's a book on surgery. On the table is a long rod with blood at the tip of it, and it does resemble the tools for a lobotomy. Then we're taken back to Homelander's penthouse where he confronts Ryan on hanging out with Butcher. Angrily, he throws a statue at the mirror, cracking it. That's when he starts hallucinating his other selves again, each with different expressions like anger, sadness, and joy, all different personalities, and this leads to him going back to that lab we saw in the visions during his nightmares, and it's back to the start. That's it for my breakdown of episode 1, 2, and 3. I know it was long, but so was that 3-episode premiere, baby. Check in next week for episode 4, and check out the break room where we'll be covering The Boys in our after show. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Lulu_Clemons. Follow New Rockstars. Subscribe to New Rockstars for more analysis of everything you love. Thanks for watching. Oi, cunts.